Good to see everybody. Obviously, there's some interest here. It's interesting because in all my years and all my campaigns, I actually don't think I've ever held a political press conference. So, but I do appreciate the weight of the question. I appreciate that there's some national interest in kind of where my next moves might be, political or otherwise. So just to be sure we put some clarity to it and everyone understands where we are in terms of how we're going to move forward. Everyone knows, obviously, how much I love New Hampshire, how proud I am of the really amazing things that our administration has been able to advance. It started back in 2017, the big initiative of fully funding kindergarten, and we just haven't taken our foot off the gas from there. Everything from tax cuts and mental health reforms, our new SUD system, school choice, and of course, the management of the COVID pandemic, which continues today. It continues to be the most fulfilling opportunity that I could possibly imagine. Being governor is a very, very unique position. Working with people one-on-one, hearing their stories, and simply just trying to fix the system that has failed them in many situations. Engineering better solutions, and most importantly, just always putting New Hampshire citizens first. In this past year, we've seen a lot of new regulations, a lot of new executive orders, unprecedented mandates, all coming out of Washington, D.C. So between managing COVID and growing our economy, I've had to work hard to push back on Washington's attempts to, frankly, overregulate a lot of our communities right here in New Hampshire. The vaccine mandate, the attempts to control our elections, attempts to pry now into our bank accounts, an unprecedented amount of executive orders that bypass right over Congress and Capitol Hill and hit home right here in the 603. Obviously, with progressives controlling Washington, D.C., there's a lot of interest in this Senate race. That's appreciated and understood. It's clearly seen as one of the best opportunities America has to have a 51st vote to stop Chuck Schumer from implementing what we all see as a losing agenda for America. I've heard from countless voices across the country. It's been very interesting. The vast majority of them all urging me to run for the U.S. Senate. They give me advice on everything from family and schedule, policy, leadership opportunities, what the Senate entails, and I do appreciate everyone who has reached out. The Senate is clearly a very different place in terms of expectations, accountability, successes. As governor, the job really demands a 24/7 accountability. The people of our state deserve nothing less, and it's where you can be the most impactful. Sometimes there could be a dozen key decisions in a day as a governor that have to be made, and all can have an incredibly direct and positive impact on individuals' lives. Not so much so in the Senate. It's a much slower pace, and frankly, too often doing nothing is considered a win. And I appreciate those that understand the need for more managers in Washington. I do. More accountability and a connection with Congress that frankly is completely unconnected to the things that face the average American. More than ever, we need to protect our rational and responsible approach. And from New Hampshire's perspective, I think we have the opportunity to be an example that others can follow. As Granite Staters, I do believe that is our civic responsibility to the entire country. We have to continue to be that example of how to work through our differences without destroying that sense of community. But my responsibility is not to the gridlock and politics of Washington, it's to the citizens of New Hampshire. And I'd rather push myself 120 miles an hour delivering wins for New Hampshire than to slow down, end up on Capitol Hill debating partisan politics without results. That's why I'm going to run for a fourth term. And I'd be honored if the people of New Hampshire would elect me again as their governor. We have a lot more to do to protect the interests of New Hampshire citizens. And it's just clear that I can be most effective doing that here in the corner office in the Granite State. Managing COVID, making impactful relief and recovery investments, fighting Washington mandates and these unbelievable executive orders, again, that things that we just haven't seen come out of Washington before, cutting taxes and regulations. I'm really proud of the work that we've done and continue to do on mental health, rebuilding our SUD system, better serving kids, crafting policies that keep our state's economic engine running, and there's just so much more that we can do. But a U.S. Senator does none of this. A governor must be accountable and deliver results. It's what I've done. It's how I can best serve New Hampshire and defend its values. The good news for the Republican Party and our country as a whole is that the people in New Hampshire are clearly ready to replace Senator Hassan. We have some great potential candidates that have privately expressed their interest in running if I chose not to. And all the polls indicate that the seat can easily be won. I want to take a moment and just recognize my family. Obviously, that was a big consideration here. And maybe it goes without saying that the sacrifices of my family are perhaps the greatest consideration of all. They know my public service, and they've been incredibly supportive in letting me know that whatever path of public service I chose, whether it's the U.S. Senate or staying as governor or returning to the private sector, they were all incredibly supportive of whatever path I chose to take. My commitment is obviously that as a dad, raising his kids so they can enjoy the same amazing place that I had the opportunity to grow up in, so that them and their kids and their kids' kids can all have their own Super 603 days, right? I also want to take a moment and acknowledge my fellow governors. A really important aspect to my decision process, specifically, frankly, the Republican governors in this country that I've worked very, very closely, sometimes on a day-to-day basis with, especially during the COVID pandemic. Frankly, they're simply some of the best and brightest individuals that I've ever had the honor of working with. Republican governors in this country especially, they understand accountability and delivering results, transparency, moving the ball forward. A lot of those core beliefs in terms of public service that I share. They've banded together, especially during the COVID pandemic, in a really unprecedented way. And it was just such an honor to be part of that team. It's a small club, to be sure, but one that has to stay on the job 24/7. I can't thank them enough for every effort that they put forth, from Charlie Baker in Massachusetts and Mike Parsons in Missouri and Doug Burgum in North Dakota. I could go through the whole list. Some of my best friends and some of the best individuals that I've ever had the honor of working with. And frankly, that's a group that I really want to continue to be a part of and to be working with. They get results, and I love that. I really do. I also want to close by recognizing members of my administration. They are also a big reason of why I chose to run again. I have a great team of commissioners, a great team of executive staff that really understand what we're trying to do here in terms of delivering services in an accountable way and making sure that we always put the individual, not politics, not big government, but the individual has to come first. And we've been really, really good at doing that here. You only get one life to live. I'd be honored to be provided the opportunity to spend a few more years doing what I love with the people I love and serve across this amazing state.